Yo guys, what's up? It's Zerotonine and I'm back with another tutorial of my new series called How I Made. And today is a very special episode because we will check out a track which is not yet officially released. We will check out my track called Back in Time, which is part of my new release on Zeka Records, and it will be out next week. And we have prepared very special offer for you, which I will talk about in a minute. And let's just quickly dive into the project. Let's give you some words about the track. The track Back in Time is like kind of peak time banger track, 130 BPM. It's like heavily inspired by these like classic 90s rave steps, which you have probably heard in several tracks already. And the EP will be released with 2 original tracks as well, and a very great and heavy remix from my brothers Mac and Dan, which you probably know from our Techno label, from T78. And the EP will be massive. I hope you're ready and I hope you will enjoy it. So let's give you a quick idea of how the track sounds. So let's just play a few spots. So I hope you will agree that it's a complete peak time banger track. And let's quickly talk about the offer I was mentioning, because as a promotional offer, I will give away the full template project basically for free. And the only thing which I am asking for is that you buy the track on Beatport, because we want just to help it push a little bit, get some visibility. It will help me as well as an artist, so that other DJs will just see the tracks there in the charts, and that will help me a lot, that people actually play my music, because as probably a lot of you understand, that as a producer, the best thing is that people play your tracks live in front of real people, and we're not just sitting at home, because this music is made to listen to in a club or festival, to dance to. And so that would help me a lot. I would really appreciate it. So that being said, the only thing which you have to do is you can just get it on Beatport, and then send me a screenshot or some other proof that you have bought and downloaded it. Very important, you have to download it as well, because otherwise it will not count for the charts. So and in return I will send you the full project. I think I will just render all tracks and just freeze and flatten them. because otherwise it may be problematic for a lot of you since there are a lot of third-party plugins. But I will try to show everything now in detail, so then you can go back and forth with the video here and you can see the original processing and how it turned out in the end. But on the buses I will leave the plugins just so that they are still there. I hope the project will still kind of make sense, but I will try to get it kind of right. And yeah, and if you have these plugins anyway, then of course you can use it and open them up. And yeah, let's just start. Yeah, I hope this video will be not as long as the last one because it was actually way too long. But yeah, let's just start. Of course with the kick drum, right? Because kick drum is important. Let's see. Let's just play it here. Yeah, kind of like the techno, peak time techno, rumble, reverb based kick. Let's see what I've got here. This time I've only used one sample here from my rack and processed it a little bit because it was actually a little bit it had too much tail and too much high frequencies in the tail, so I processed a little bit. Let's just quickly check that out. For example, I will disable the filter. And then you can easily hear that on the tail it has like this high frequency, like rumble, reverb rumble. It's for certain genres and tracks. That's definitely what you probably are going for. But with this I wanted to have a like kind of more darker rumble, so I use the filter. And you may ask, hey, the filter is fully open, so what are you actually doing? Yes, what I'm doing here is that I don't want to cut the high frequencies on the like transient part of the kick, so I'm using a filter envelope. And as you can see that the envelope will quickly just close it down, and then on the tail I have the filter closed, but on the very first part on the like sharp transient I have the filter open, so I get a high frequency and the sharp knock out of it. And as well I have here some volume envelope where you can see that it will here the sustain is a little bit down, and so here over time that the tail will get a little bit lower in volume because it was a little bit too much in combination with my mastering chain and all the chains I have behind the channel here. Yeah. Then we have some EQ. Just boosted a little bit lows and took out a few dBs here, 3 to 4 dB in the low mid range, because there's always some mud. Then I've here reduced a little bit here the knock, which is typically about 2 or 3K, and a little bit in the mid range, just to clean it up. And I have a second EQ. Sometimes I use a second EQ just because it, like, if you have too much EQ points in one EQ, it kind of gets messy. So I just drop in a second one and use this, because I had the feeling that it's still a little bit too much low mids. So I reduced them even further, and then I've just used the utility to gain some volume, so that will typically peak around here like 0. So it's not completely 0, but close enough. And that's basically it for the kick. So I had a good sample here, which I didn't have to process that much. I just wanted to make the rumble a little bit darker and take out some mid-lows, and that was already it. In this case, the rumble was already there, so I didn't have to create one myself. But if you want to check it out, in the last video I showed my own rack, which I'm using most of the times for like reverb and delay rumble kicks. And yeah, that's basically it here for the kick. Yeah, I think there's nothing to show here. I'm using my racks. I think you know it from the like other videos that I'm using my 128 racks here. Then we have some break beats here in the break and in the last part of the first drop. So you see there's not much going on just here in the low mids. I have reduced it a little bit, and I have a EQ here which is automated, so you can see if we go here that in this part I have my the kick is playing, so I didn't want to have all the low frequencies in there, so I cut it out in that part. But in the break where there's no kick playing, I want the low end to be present and coming from this loop here, and that's why I'm using it. For breakbeats, most of the times I use loops, and sometimes I'm just layering it. I will cut it and then resample it and stuff like that. Even for this, you see, often I'm cutting it, I'm putting other stuff around, and then I'm resampling it again. Because with breakbeats, it's like if you really make them from scratch, it's kind of hard, especially if you're not a drummer or a professional, like some drummer kind of stuff. So the samples are often pretty good. So definitely you can use it. Try just to make it a little bit your own. Do some processing. You can do some saturation stuff just to make it a little bit like unique. But yeah, otherwise not that much processing. I've just used here the punctuate plugin and having some transient emphasis here. Let's just quickly see what it does. So you see what it's basically doing. Just reduce it here, that we don't use as much CPU. That it will just enhance the transients, so it makes them a little bit sharper and punchier, and that's what I was going for, because I wanted really that the breakbeat loop is like really hitting. Especially in the break where we don't have too much other elements, there's enough space, and also volume wise you can really hit it hard, and so I just wanted yeah, to stand out here a little bit. That's why I used some transient shaping here, which I recommend you to try out on drums especially. Transient shaping can be really cool. Other than that, just some reduction of the stereo width, because it was pretty wide actually, and I do some stereo widening on the master always, and that's why I'm compensating for it in the mix. That the elements which are too wide originally, I will just reduce them a little bit. I have some volume automation here, as you can see, so I'm slowly fading it in so that it's just not starting out at the full volume, and then we'll build up. And here, before the drop, I have just cut it so that it's repeating a little bit faster. And yeah, then here I have some just like fade-ins, like kind of FX stuff. Let's check that out. Yeah, and what I'm using here is I'm using like from Isotope a stutter edit I think it's called Stutter Edit, and it's a plugin and has like really crazy effects chains and like messes your sound up a lot. And I will just put it there, and then I will resample the sound from Stutter Edit, and then I will take only a few snippets. Sometimes I reverse them and use them for like kind of transitions, so you get like really weird and crazy sounds, and it's really cool. And I'm often using it just for like some ear candy stuff. Then we have the drum bass here. We have some like classic drums, hi-hats, of course, open hat. Yeah, I'm not sure if you really want to see that too much, because as I told in my previous videos, the processing is very simple. So I've only on my drums usually saturation and EQ. That's basically it. I'm using my racks here to just find a sample which I like. MIDI notes are like classic. I have like offbeat pattern. And here and there I'm using just a little bit these like ghost notes to switch it up, as you can hear. Then we have a offbeat shaker as well. Sometimes I really like only have to have a like really fat and dirty shaker as a offbeat hi-hat, but often if you combine a shaker with a hat, it sometimes creates a cool sound, because the shaker is like more sustained and like body, and together with like the high end from the open hat, it gets a cool combination. Yeah? It gets like the sustain in the body and the dirt from the shaker, which I really like. Then we have some 16th closed heads. And as you can see, of course, here some like automation on the velocity to make it a little bit more dynamic. And as well, we have another shaker here, 16th. So if I'm layering stuff like this, I'm trying to get some like different sounds and combine them to get something new, because it doesn't make too much sense if you keep layering stuff which sounds the same. And together with the open hat and the shaker. Yeah, then we have some called here pitchy hats. Let's check that out. And it's a loop. And sometimes I will just drop a loop in over my original drums, just to spice it up a little bit and give it a different touch, because often loops have like just kind of new ideas which you didn't come up yourself. And with layering, you still keep the original vibe of your own stuff, but still add some like fresh ideas. And you can see or you can hear that it has this kind of like pitch down sound, and that's why I called pitchy hats, and add something on top of the other shakers. Then of course like ride. With some different like patterns. We have also here this part where I have just like single hits. And if you play it together with other stuff, we can just quickly try that out of the kick. You can use it also your drums just here and there for like a very short hit, just to like keep it interesting, spice it up. Works well most of the time. Then we have some clap, but not on the like second kick hit. It's like more like rhythm clap. to like keep the flow going. And some snares here as well, like more rhythmic as a transition part. Yeah, and here some snare rolls. They're of course in the build-up, and also here in the part into the second break. Then we have some rhythm percussions. And as you can see, it's not playing all the time because I have used the volume automation on the clip here to just have it play the first and the third time. And because if it's playing all the time, it just gets too boring too quickly. And it's not very loud in the mix. It's just there to spice it up a little bit. Let's just check it out. Have a cool like flow and the element here to make it a little bit more interesting. We have some automation here, volume automation over time. I'm using here my real auto pan rack just to give it a little bit of stereo movement, so it's not always at the same spot all the time, to keep it a little bit more interesting. And some reverse cymbals just for the transitions here. They always work great, so you can definitely use it. You can use white noise or like reverse cymbals, crashes, works really well. Here on the other stuff, you see the processing is usually not that different. Basically, we can check out some sounds. I have used some transient shaping and saturation most of the time. On some here I've also used like stereo effect. We can check out one of them here. For example, house effect with just 8 milliseconds delay. I have a video about house effect if you want to know how to use them correctly, because sometimes you can really fuck it up, especially with like transient heavy material. Then as well, I'm using a frequency shifter. I really like a frequency shifter. It's cool on like this percussion sounds shaker, and just to pitch it down a little bit, not like completely, and it's sometimes you can get some cool stuff out of it. Because it was just a little bit too high in pitch, and so I will reduce it just a little bit, and it gets a little bit like this more dirty sound. It's really cool. You can also like automate stuff, and also the ring modulation is cool for like more crazier effects. Same on the other channels here. I often use like transient shaping here, for example, on the snare. Let's check that out. Maybe on the snare roll here, we can hear it. The snares are always like for the roll. I use a like low pass filter, and then we'll just automate it into the drop so that it will build up tension more. I always sometimes I like to use the auto panning even on the snares, so like make it a little bit pan from left to right. And I have in my racks here the pan LFO, which I'm using here, and I just automate it here. That it will as you can see, that the panning is a little bit here, and here on the other parts I have even more panning, so that the snare is not always hitting at the same spot in the stereo feed, so it like keeps moving, makes it keeps it interesting as well. And all together we get it like this. Yeah, as usual, some saturation on the bus, decapitator, as usual, drum fattener preset. I've just tweaked a little bit here the settings so that it's a bit more volume matched. Then I have a drum bass here. Drum bass really cool for your drums, just to fatten it up a little bit. Of course, it's a bit of unfair because it's not volume matched, but I think you get it that it gets like fuller. Drums need distortion, it's very important. We have an EQ here, which is probably not doing very much here. Just to make sure that the lows are not like interfering with the kick. We have some imaging. Just here to boost a little bit on the mid highs and highs. To make it a little bit wider. Sidechain. Here I've explained that a little bit more in detail in my other video. You can check that out. So we'll use multiband sidechain, and sidechain the higher frequencies a little bit less and shorter, to get it making it a little bit more like kind of natural and not pumping as much as I'm ducking my low frequencies, because low frequencies will take up more space. High frequencies are usually not big of an issue, and so I can let a little bit more of the high frequencies come through, and that will make it a little bit more transparent, so the sidechain is not that obvious, but still you get enough sidechain so that the kick stands out. Then I've used some here Ableton compressor for the break here. So you can see, let's just quickly play it with the drum loop. So it just uses the break. Here I have the break kick, which is basically like a pattern where the kick is playing, and so that from the breakbeat loop, the kick will stand out a little bit more in the snare. I think it's sidechained as well, so that they get some more presence and duck down the other channels here, which are basically to hear only shaker and the snare roll, and here this is disabled actually. Yeah, that's it for the drums. Then we have some processing on top. As I told you already in the last time, I'll use some parallel drum compression just to give it a little bit more body. I will completely destroy it here with the kind of LMD6 style compressor, so it's like fastest attack, fastest release. I'm really pushing it to really compress it very heavily, and then I mix that signal in just a little bit to give it a little bit more body and like kind of weight, so that it drums sound thicker and fatter. Then favorite drum EQ API 2500. Check that out. Yeah, but like the kind of default drum setting, fastest, slowest attack, 30 milliseconds, fast release, probably, as I said last time, I will probably go more for like 100 milliseconds release. Nowadays, I think 0.5 is a little bit too fast, but yeah, at that time I was using this setting. And the tone you have to play around, especially if you have like a kick with a lot of low frequencies. Like the thrust detector in loud is better. It's just like the what this is doing is it kind of like is doing a filter or a kind of EQ on the sidechain input, so it will reduce a little bit the lows and it will increase the highs, so that the compressor is not acting as much in response to the low frequencies, and especially with very low frequent material, it's useful to use that. It's basically just an EQ on the sidechain input, so that the compressor will react a little bit differently. No stereo linkage, because I really don't want that here. And yeah, and then it's just some here transient shaping again, just very little, just to keep it like a little bit more punchy. and some clipping. As I told you last time, with some check here, so I can hear the clipping alone. Yeah, you have to. Yeah, unfortunately, all the return channels are playing all the time. It's really annoying, but what can I do? So you see, that's basically roughly the sound which is added by the clipper. So you can see on the hits, like it adds a little bit like crackling, but in the full like mix you will not hear it. It's really subtle, but it just like cuts 1 or 2 dBs, which I will save for my later stages, so that my limiters don't have to work that hard. It's really important, and even it's just a tiny bit, it will save you a lot of issue. It will keep you ready for having a loud and tight master. Alright, that's about the drums. Let's move on to the synth sounds. Here we have some bass sounds. Let's just quickly check that. We have here like just more some rhythmic stuff. We are using a lot of delay here. It's a silent one here with some delay and reverb inside, and as well here my approach is always try to get the sound like you want in the synth, so that you don't have to use a lot of processing. Here I've just used some EQ. Cut down a little bit of the highs and of the lows, so that we'll get more of the like mid-range, and yeah, that's basically it for that sound. It's not that a really important sound, but still useful to keep it a little bit interesting. Yeah, and here we have a channel called Dark Bass, which is a kind of like a pad style bass, which is just playing in the background to give it a little bit more atmosphere. Let's just check that out. Or also I will enable my return channels again, so that we will hear it together with the effects. So again, here I'm just fatting it up using my fattener rack here, then some EQ, because I really don't want lows. I already have my kick playing and I don't need any more sub frequencies, and then I use some chorus just to make it a little bit more stereo and give it a little bit more space. And in the break I will play some different notes here. Yeah, just to like switch it up a little bit. Here we have some bass just for the transition. Just if you like have something playing in the last bar of your 8-bar loops, it just kind of keeps it interesting. And as you see, not playing it all the time, just every 16 bar, so that I will try to not overuse it. And yeah, processing as well, some distortion. If you want to have some like a little bit more crunch and a little bit more dirt on the mid-high frequencies, the pedal is really cool as well. So it like kind of makes it really aggressive and like really crunched, and hard, like in the mid-high range. Some EQ as well, just to cut out some lows, reduce some frequencies I don't like, and here as well, stuff like this. Yeah, same. Yeah, my analog effect racks was just like distortion, overdrive, chorus delay, and stuff, all that. Yeah, in a chain, so I can quickly like push it a little bit, make it a little bit more distorted. Some EQ as well, just a low cut here, very simple. Not that much going on. It's Diva. I use Diva a lot in techno. It has some cool sounds, and you can get a lot of different sounds out of it. Can really recommend it for techno, especially also for like melodic techno. It's really cool. So that's basically it with the bass group. As you can see, it's like more like hits, like bass shots basically, and one like kind of pad bass, giving it a little bit more atmosphere. Now we get probably to the more interesting part, because I think a lot of you want to know how I made the synths, and especially like the heavy like rave step synths in the second drop, and we will cover that here. Right now it's actually not that complicated. Most of these like kind of rave steps, they're actually samples taken from like other records, and there's a free plugin or free VST which is called Rave Generator. Probably some of you guys already know it. You can download for free. It has a lot of different like step samples for synth steps, and it's really cool, and you can stack them over each other, so you can get a kind of more unique sound. But like this sound is like the very like it has been used a lot. It's this kind of this landlord step which is called, and it sounds like this. Yeah, this is like very popular, but I really like that. I used some my Fedner preset as well, but yeah, you can really try out that plugin. It's really cool. It has some cool sounds. It's for free. You don't have to pay anything, and yeah. Yeah, just some processing, reducing a little bit the highs, and of course automation. Automation is very important to keep your track flowing and interesting. And yeah, that's the sample from the first part. So we have actually two parts, or like two different channels here. This is the first like kind of landlord piano step. And on the second part we have a different step, which is called rave step here, because it's a lot more ravey and dirtier, harder. Sounds like this. You probably know that sound as well. It's from the Rave Generator as well, but it's called like a T99. And I've stacked up here like different sounds, as you can see, and they all have their individual sound. And as you can see, like you have to tweak here the volume, so like kind of to get off the sound you want. As you can see, these layers are only like very quiet, and they will just add a little bit more like a different vibe to the original sample. And so that's kind of useful to make it a little bit more different than just using one single sample here. Then the same drum the Fedner here, some EQ just to cut out some harsh frequencies. Low cut, high cut as well. Then I'm using Galfos here because the sound was a little bit dirty, and Galfos is really cool, like to make it a little bit more clean. And it's basically like kind of ducking the same frequencies I was here cutting with the EQ, because it just like has some resonances here and there, and Gullfoss will kind of take care of it. And the cool thing is that the Gullfoss is like dynamic, so it will keep analyzing your signal, and for example if you switch the notes, like the resonance will get higher or lower, and with a normal EQ it's kind of like annoying, and the Gullfoss like just it will move up like the dips in the EQ, because it analyzes, it sees, okay, now it's a little bit higher, now it's a little bit lower, and that's why it's really handy and just makes your life easier. Then we have using some stereo widening, because the sounds are mono, to make it a little bit more wide. Yeah, some mid side here again to generally boost some mid signal here, which is half a dB. It's basically nothing. And you probably also want to know how this like big epic stadium sound comes from. And the trick is here that I'm using like a really fat reverb here, and I've made a rack which is called sidechain reverb, short and long, with like two different reverbs, a long reverb and a short reverb, and they are sidechained to the original signal, and that's why because with reverbs you have to be careful. You don't want to like completely mess up your sound, because too much reverb will make your mix a lot really muddy, and it will just hide the original signal, and it keeps pushing it in the back. But I wanted that sound to really be upfront and aggressive in your face, but still to have this like stadium, like epic warehouse, big like church vibe. And the trick is to have a really fat reverb and like really big, but when the original signal is playing, you have to duck the reverb and to give the original sound the space it needs. But then on the parts where the sound will not play anymore, the reverb gets like up front, and then you have like in the parts where there's no sound, you have this like massive reverb tail, and that's like gives the impression that it's like in a really big space without getting too muddy when the original sound is playing. And so as you can see, we'll just quickly check it out here. That's how the reverb sounds. This is the short reverb. So I'm just using a FabFilter Pro R, some different here. This is like a kind of 2-second reverb, and the long one is probably about 4 seconds here. And then some saturation, EQ to cut out the low end, because other than reverb rumble is really exception here, but otherwise try to cut your reverb so that they don't have too much like low mids and lows, because that will make your track really muddy. Typically around, check around 200 or 300 hertz. You can cut the reverb because you don't want to have the low frequencies in there. Then we have used some stereo trickery. Here it's like a kind of plugin to like make it, the impression is a little bit wider. It's actually a free plugin. You can check that out from Sennheiser. I think there's a newer version which I have installed already, but project is already about 1 year old, so still the old version in here. But yeah, as you can see, like we have this reverb, but it's ducking all the time because the original sound is playing. See, the sound still has some the presence. It doesn't get lost too much. It's still there, and still you can hear it's clear, but it's surrounded with this like massive reverb tails, which gives it like this kind of huge space, and that's a really cool effect. You can also as you can see, a very good tip here, that I'm using the compressor, the sidechain, not after the reverb. I use it in front of the reverb, and that is like kind of counterintuitive, and you may think, okay, what's the reason why to use it before the reverb? And the reason is the sound is different. You can try it out on your own. If you cut the sound before the reverb, what you will actually do is you will say, okay, I will cut like the first part of the sound when it's hitting, and I will only feed the signal into my reverb, which is like not ducked by the initial sidechain. So the sound coming into the reverb is like it's different, like having the original signal coming into the reverb and then ducking the reverb, because the like reverb generates a different signal then. And sometimes it works better if you put the sidechain after the reverb, and sometimes it works better if you put it before. But it's a good tip and recommendation from myself. Try it out, and sometimes you get a really cool effect if you put the reverb actually in front of the sidechain, in front of the reverb or delay, whatever you're using. It can get a cool effect. And let's also just quickly show the notes, which are super easy. Basically what this is, it's just like more about the rhythm. So if you have like these kind of big sounds, often it doesn't work as well to switch up the notes a lot, because if you jump around the notes, it will kind of lose the power. And if it stays like at a very like narrow range of notes, it's kind of like darker and fatter. And here it's more like about the rhythm. As you can see, I already played, I think, around with the velocity a little bit to enhance some notes and get some more dynamics out of it. And I have just different parts here. As you can see here, I have shorter notes, more and faster, and I will just switch it up here and there, and then I have different patterns going on. So it kind of keeps it interesting, because I'm not using the same pattern all the time. I'm just switching the patterns, like shorter notes, more staccato, and then longer notes. Some velocity changes, and here you can see this note, which is technically out of scale, but it's a very like often used trick, like the first semitone above the root note. It's like also called like the badass note, because it really sounds like badass and dark and dirty. It's used in like different genres, also in like house genre, bass house, G house, for example, like, because it has like this dark and bad vibe, as you can hear. Yeah, so sometimes you just have to get a cool rhythm, and then you don't have to play around with the notes that much. Yeah? And on the other here on the sample, it's like the same. It's actually here the same, completely the same. Yeah, and that's with the rave steps. I hope that was interesting. How I made the sound, and the reverb is kind of big part of the sound. So you can try out tricks like this in your own tracks as well. Then we have just some pads for like atmosphere. Yeah, very little processing. It's basically just the synth and then some EQ to just reduce the frequencies unknown one. And pads are important because you just have to set the atmosphere of the track, so that even if there are not like the main sounds in, it kind of you get the listener in the right mood. That's why pads are really useful, and it can create a nice atmosphere in space, which is like yes, like kind of setting the mood for the whole track. And then some shots, of course. Check it out. Yeah, just some synth shots. Yeah, this, you can see they are like spread out so that in different parts they are like different shots playing. It's just yeah, to keep it interesting, to keep to get some like new sounds into it, so that there's always something going on and it's not boring. And as you can see in the arrangement, I've used different sounds in different sections, and so I get I'm not trying to overuse a sample all the time. Yeah, they are mostly made with Diva. Here I have this is one of my own presets made with sample, I think, yeah. And here Serum. Yeah, and you can see also I've panned them a little bit. So that they play a kind of pattern, one on the left, one on the right. So also try to spread them out in the stereo field, and so it sounds a little bit different, and they're not just hitting like in the mid all the time. Some effects very easy, like uplifters here, white noise stuff, downlifters, just for the transitions, impacts. Riser. That if you don't have the risers and the white noise stuff and all of that, it's a little bit dry, it's a little bit boring. With all that stuff, it's not that noticeable. It's not from volume wise, it's like more kind of in the background, but it like it raises the tension, or the tension keeps rising all the time, and you're waiting for the drop. And it's subtle, but it really makes a difference. So try really to build up the tension in your builds, and then really drop it on the drop, and put in the bass again. Yeah, that's also like really important that all these like small like samples and effects, they can really enhance what you already have. So really try to not forget about them. So I think that's basically the track. So let's quickly talk about the arrangement. Here you can see, of course, a basic intro. Then we have like slowly coming in with all the stuff. So you can see here we are just introducing the sound a little bit, then the sound takes over like the landlord step, and then it will get filtered down again on the first drop. So with the arrangement, you always have to kind of think that like you're kind of telling a story, so that it moves on from the beginning, so that the sound takes over, it gets back again, some new sounds will come in, so that the listener is just there, and everything it's always changing, something's changing, new stuff come in, sometimes will get removed, and so that there's a constant like movement going on, and so you can really enjoy it and not get bored and think, okay, what's happening, it's the same sound like for 1 minute. I mean, there are genres which are like this, but here with techno we have very long tracks. They are 6-7 minutes long, so you can try to really switch it up at least every 8 bars, or even every 4 bars or something. So that you can see it also with the drums, that I'm adding stuff, removing stuff here, and so that it's kind of like keeps growing and growing, and then it will get back to very little here, and then you can start again with building it up. And so you can use everything what you have. and like kind of build, remove, build, remove, build, remove. And with this kind of like trick, which is basically how arrangement is done, you can like keep the interest in the track and make it a little bit more interesting for the listener, and so that it's not playing the same stuff all the time. Then we go into the second break here, which is kind of the longer break, and there we have the break beats playing, and the synth is also playing. And here you can see that in the break the synths are like kind of changing. Just the transition in the last 8 bars before the drop. We kind of move to the new sound, introduce the new sound already, and then here we have the old step getting removed slowly, and then the new comes in, so that it's not the drastic, like the new stuff is playing on the drop and nobody would ever expect it. So you can kind of already hear, okay, there's something new coming in, and then on the second drop it goes for like full force with the new sound, and then the new sound comes in, and then at the end it will switch back again to the original sample. So yeah, just in the end I will switch it up again and bring back the original sound, and so that I will keep just moving and switch out the stuff, play some this sound only in this half and the other sound in that half, and so you can make it a little bit more dynamic. In this video I will not go too much into detail about the mastering chain, because I already did that in my last video. It's pretty much the same as usually. I will use saturation plugins here also on my stereo bus. I have my virtual mix rack here, the virtual mix bus. Use a little bit here of my custom series lift EQ just to boost a little bit the highs. Then we have the true iron as usual in the 108X setting, which I really like. That's basically it. Some automation here for the build-ups, volume automation, stereo automation. Then we have FabFilter Zerotonine. Here you can see I'm just using a little here, like 10 to 15%. Usually it's more than enough. I will want only a very subtle effect. Then tape machine, as usual, it's always on my master. These plugins are always on my master. Stereo widening. The stereo widening is always like, if you kind of think about a look like a tree, like it's narrow on the low frequencies, then it gets wide and it's like really wide in the mid range, and then it gets a little bit narrow on the top. And what you really want trying to push is like push the mid-high frequency range, like as you can see here. This is like the range where you can get really wide and it sounds really epic, and but on the lower mid-range you can try to keep it a little bit more mono, and because you don't want to have everything completely stereo, you better use just the mid-range, mid-high range, and the highs you can have them like wide, and then it sounds really big. The callback EQ, it's basically just for the like preamp stuff, for some coloration. FabFilter, Pro Q3, just you can see there's basically nothing going on. It's just a high cut and a low cut, just to remove everything I don't want. It's basically not a big difference, because it will just, for safety, it will cut out everything above and below the audible range, because if you check out festival subwoofers, usually they just go down around like 40 hertz, and then it will drop off rapidly. So that's also why if you have like your kicks and your subs in like the range from like kind of like E, F to around A. That's like the sweet spot, and typically around G is like really the bass is like really like heavy, because in that range G is about 49 hertz, and that's the range where pretty much all the subwoofers can play at full volume, so you get a very like loud and heavy bass. But if you go below F, like especially if you have like something in D or D sharp, then it's already in this area where the subs are already dropping in volume, and that will mean even if your tracks are kind of play at the same volume, the bass gets a little bit quieter because the subs can't reproduce it accurately, and because there's just a roll off on the low end. You could check the graphs on the manufacturer sites, and you can see with every speaker like there's some roll off somewhere. On some like it's lower than on others, but still on a lot of them that's actually like already around like 40 hertz. There's a slight roll off. So it means if you have a bass in D, it's probably like 3 to 6 dB quieter than you have it in G, and that's why scales do matter. And for like really bass heavy stuff, make sure that you're checking the frequency range of your subs. Then we have some multiband compression, very light. I'm always here like limiting the range so that it will just do you basically you are 1 or 2 dB usually. So you can see it's just like limiting a little bit on the low, mid and mid range, not too much. Don't want to compress it too much. Just make the frequency like balance a little bit more tight and controlled. And then I'm using the trick which I told you last time, just to get some dynamic perception here. No compression, no limiting here, just trying to enhance the perceived loudness. Gulf Force again, very good plugin. Just cleans up a little bit, just using 20% here, as you can see. You can see here on the scale it's just about 1 or maximum 2 dB, and that's basically it. It just helps to clean up everything a little bit, get a little bit more presence. It really the track gets a little bit more present. That's really helpful. Then shadow hills, master and compressor, just not really using it that much for the compression. It's like more the coloring in the ear of the of this like hardware stage. Newfangled punctuate, very little, just to give it back a little bit more transient response and make it a little bit more punchier, like that thing with the perceived dynamics we're talking about. We talked already about. Then we have some mastering, clipper mid sides. As you already told you in the last video, I will clip only the mid signal, and we can check that out here if we can hear the crackling. So you can see it's just a crackling part which you hear. That's like introduced by the clipper, but it's on the full mix, it's barely audible. And it just saves some work for my final limiters, so that they don't have to limit all that stuff, because transients are better clipped than limited, and so they still sound punchy. And usually it's not really a big of an issue with the clipping. It's not that audible, especially in a full mix where you have a lot of high frequencies. And then we have my mastering limiters. First one's ozone maximizer. Just like limiting a few dBs. So you can see it says here it's usually around 1 or 2 dB gain reduction. It's not like really hitting all the time. It just like pulls down the peaks. So we're getting ready for the final limiter. And I'm using the IRC4 in modern. I really like the modern, but sometimes I also go for IRC3. Like there's the I think the crisp or the clipping. I would try it out. Sometimes one is better than the other, but that's really depending on the track. There's no real rule. And then final limiter is my Pro L2. I had this true peak limiting enabled, but you can, as I told you in the last video, it's not a really big difference, and usually I leave it off because I think that transient sound a little bit more punchy if you have it off, and I don't care about the clipping on the final output or the intersample peaks. Not really a problem in my opinion, but that's up to you. If you want to use it, you can use it. Also just try it out if you can hear the difference. And as you can see, I'm just pushing another 2.5 dB here. And as you can see, we are hitting the like -6 laughs target for, or my personal target for my masterings. I've also reduced here the output minus 0.3 dB just to compensate for the distortion, which will add it when converting to lossy codecs like MP3 or AAC. And yeah, that's basically it. So you can see that in total we don't have too much compression. It's just like 4 or 5 dB limiting, not completely smashing it. I will maximum. My personal approach is that if you're using like more than 5 or 6 dB gain reduction in your limiters, then probably something's wrong with your mix, because then you're like really destroying it, because the limiters can't take that much. Usually a single limiter, the good limiters around around 5 dB gain reduction, then they are kind of like if they fall apart. So we'll stack them and just do 2 or 3 dB with one limiter, so they're kind of like staying in the good range where they can easily handle it without getting too noticeable and really crushing it. But of course, don't use the same limiter in a row. That will probably not work very well. But use different stages. For example, here use the clipping stage. Just cut off 1, 2, 3 dB of the peaks. Then reduce further 1 or 2 dB with one limiter, and then the final limiting. And then you can get a like really tight and fat sound out of it without having it really over compressed. Yeah? And that's my approach. There are different approaches, and probably a lot of them actually work. So it's only up to you finding the right one which works for you. This is my approach. I hope it was helpful. Don't forget about the promotional offer. If you want to have that project, I will try to freeze and flatten everything, but I will leave the plugins on. So maybe it works for you because you already have some of them. And if not, maybe I will make a second kind of version of the project where I'm trying to at least get like a similar sound with like stock plugins in the mastering chain, so that you can just play around in the project. I think it's not exactly like getting exactly the same sounds. It's like more view, like checking, okay, where here the sounds where are playing, where's this sound playing, where's this sound playing, how did he make that sound. I hope I explained a little bit here as well, so you can really see how the original sounds were made. And yeah, I hope you will learn something. If you want to know more about it, or more about the other tracks in the EP, just hit me up, let me know what you're interested in. Just send me a message, and I hope you have fun with the project. And yeah, as I said, just send me the screenshot of your Beatport download and purchase, and I will send you the project file, and then you can play around, have some fun. And that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode with my new track Back in Time from my new Tension EP, which will be out on 1st of July on Zeka Records. I'm really looking forward. I hope that these tracks will get some good responses from DJs and other friends. And let me know what you think about this track and the other tracks on the EP as well. So yeah, let's keep in touch. See you in the next video. If you liked the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want for more videos, because there's a lot of more content coming soon. Wish you a great day. See you soon, and ciao, bye bye.